August 18th, 2021. Now, prosecution opening statements. Assistant U.S. Attorney Maria Melendez begins a powerful opening statement by calling Kelly a predator who hid in plain sight for years. Prosecution identifies Jane Doe number 1 as singer Aaliyah, who met Kelly when she was 12 years old. A clean-cut R.KELLY hangs his head at the prosecutor, detailing accusations about how Kelly planned to marry Aaliyah in 1994 when he believed she was pregnant, to keep her from ever testifying against him. Aaliyah met defendant in 1992 when she was 12 years old. She was an inspiring singer. She had a gift. Kelly engaged in sexual activity with her for years. He learned she believed she was pregnant. He decided he needed to marry her. At the time, as he understood it, she couldn't be forced to talk if she were married. In the middle of his tour, he flew to Chicago in the middle of the night. Aaliyah was waiting there. Kelly and several of his associates decided they needed to figure out the problem of Aaliyah being 15 and needing to be 18 to get marriage license. They had to bribe someone to get her a fake ID.
See, spurred on a marriage that was just to keep her from testifying. Again, this is testimony. I just don't know where to begin, except we have to call things what they are. If any bit of that is true, it's what you just said: sexual abuse. A 15-year-old, 15 years old. It was August 2002, right? 2001. When we lost her. And he was 27 years old, a predator who used his fame to get women. A lot of people use fame to get a leg up with other people and to dominate them, but this is molestation. This is predator behavior. This is innocence lost. And if any part of this is true, just like you build a story, just like an athlete wants to get out of the blocks perfectly and strong, to me, this is what the prosecution has done here. Let's go with a bombshell, so we can set this up and you can see who we're talking about. Not an R&B genius, a predator.
Jane Doe number 3. In prosecutor opening statements describes an occasion in which the alleged victim discovered the door locked, spent 3 days in a room, pleaded to go get food, go to the bathroom, etc., but not being allowed out before finally getting food, cold Chinese food, then falling asleep and waking up to find her underwear off, wetness between her legs, and the defendant pulling up pants, grabbing her backside, and ordering her to go. Defendant allegedly warned her to keep quiet, and she did for 16 years. Now, Jane Doe number 4. Geronda, a 16-year-old, met defendant at a party in 2009. She claimed to be 19. They exchanged numbers. She told him she was a virgin, and he said he wanted to train her to do oral sex. And that's what happened. She later told him she was 16 and showed her ID. The defendant allegedly did not ask her to leave and instead told her to tell people she is 19 and continued sexual relationships. Defendant allegedly became controlling, slapped her, choked her, and forced her to give him oral sex.
He made sexual contact, potentially, because the prosecution says that they have the DNA, the video, all, the marriage certificates. They have the receipts to prove it. And so when we look at that, I'm not sure where the defense can go in this situation, even if they get into her credibility.
Jane Doe number 5. Zelle met the defendant at age 17 in 2015 when the defendant was 48 years old. Alleges that an associate of the defendant gave her a wristband to attend a concert, giving his phone number. She initially said she was 18, alleged the defendant told her to come for an audition, at which time he told her to sit on his lap, give him a kiss, invited her to hotel room, said he needed to relieve himself sexually, did oral sex on her, video recorded their sexual encounters, alleges the defendant told her parents he would help her career, saying she would be the next Aaliyah. Allegedly told the defendant she was 17, yet alleges the defendant went on to tell her to live with him. Alleges the defendant exposed her to herpes, which is a crime in both New York and California, both of which states they had sex. Alleges the defendant imposed strict rules, telling her to call him daddy and confining her to a room for days. Now, lastly, Jane Doe number 6. Faith was 19 years old when she met the defendant in 2017, at which time he was 50. Allegedly met the defendant at a concert and he began flying her around the country. On one occasion, he allegedly brought her into a small room with a gun, asking her questions, engaged in unprotected sex, exposing her as well to herpes. Prosecution lays out charges explaining how they linked to each alleged victim, claiming they have text messages, phone records, travel records, medical records, physical evidence, and more to back up their case. The defense's opening. Nicole Becker delivers the opening statements for the defense. You'll hear he sold millions upon millions of records. You'll hear that he has so many fans that truly love and adore him, that his music touched and uplifted their lives. She begins talking about Jane Doe number 1. If he were involved in a crime from 1994, would we be here today? Now, when it comes to Aaliyah, God rest her soul, she passed away. She's not going to be here to testify. Ladies and gentlemen, there will be no evidence, no proof that she was pregnant. Jane Doe number 2. Kelly and Jane Doe number 2 dated for 6 to 8 months. She came to see him, got on a plane. No one forced her. We need you to use your common sense when you hear testimony from Jane Doe number 2. She came to the studio in hopes of getting to know Mr. Kelly. She always had her cell phone with her and a landline. She took showers outside of the room she was staying in. And she called the front desk reception 80 times asking, "Where is R.KELLY?" There's no evidence or proof the prosecution can show that the doors only locked from the outside. Jane Doe number 4 admits she's a super fan, skipped school, lied to her mom so she could pursue her passion, R.KELLY. The proverbial word groupie can be used to describe Jane Doe number 4. Her story is like a snowball that expands with the lies, getting bigger and bigger, attaching more and more to the interaction between her and Mr. Kelly.
You know, it was uncharted territory until we had Keith Lanier. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he's head of this cult Nixum, and he was convicted of 150 years on some of the exact same charges: sex trafficking, racketeering, because of this cult that he created in order to bring in women. He started serving his 150 years in January of 2021. And in fact, R.KELLY, he actually was indicted right after this trial started for Keith Lanier. So the timing of it was interesting, and both take place in New York City. So it's not uncharted territory. There were a number of things that I think the defense said that just really didn't make sense on its face. I mean, even if you have someone that maybe lied about their age, which is what this first witness said, the fact that he had sexual contact with this young woman in and of itself is a crime, regardless of what he thought their age was or not. So I think it was interesting that the defense was kind of flailing there, and I'm not sure where they're going to go, but as you guys have been talking about, the prosecution hit it hard right out the gate.